Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are almost done. All right, we're almost there. I can see the proverbial light at the end of the tunnel. I see the finish line laid out before me. All right, we got 3 days left in December, 3 days left in 2025, and we only have 3 Zoan videos left. So, barring something absolutely cataclysmic occurring in the next 72 hours, I think we're going to be able to finish the Devil Fruit series on time. God, I'm so happy. Oh, man, watch. Blizzard of the Century hits my area. Like, an unprecedented, undocumented, and unforeseen blizzard hits central Pennsylvania today, knocking out power and internet for thousands, and Teching won't be able to finish his video series. You know what? Screw that. Even if that were to happen, I will still figure out a way to get the video to you. I have battery backup. I'll film the video on my phone, and then I'll get all suited up like I'm on Hoth, and I'll trek out into the blizzard and search for a Wi-Fi signal somewhere. All right. Well, anyway, we're almost done. Just, okay. What are we talking about today? All right. Yamato's Okuchi no Makami. All right. Kind of ironic. We talked about Orochi's Yamato no Orochi last time, so it's a Yamata, and now we're talking about Yamato. Yamato. I don't know, sounds similar. And also, of course, because there's a lot of references to Japanese deities and yokai in Wano, because Wano is based off of Japan. We also have Kaido's Azure Dragon Fruit, where he turns into a fish. I don't know if you guys remember that. It was kind of a small part of the arc, but Kaido is, in fact, a fish, and also a duck, and Orochi's a snake, and Yamato's a wolf. So that's cool. That's pretty neat. And we all know, of course, Yamato, now that he has finished his epic journey around Wano and has gathered the 9 red scabbards, well, 2 red scabbards, the new generation of scabbards, the 2 blue scabbards. I don't know if Yamato is going to refer to them the same way as Odin did. But he's finished up his journey. Obviously going to join the Straw Hat crew at some point, right? Along with Carrot and everybody else along the way. Dude, Oda could seriously troll us with that so bad. Like, at the end of the story, when the big war is happening, everybody shows up, and Luffy all at once is like, "You're all part of my crew now." The Straw Hat crew goes from 10 to 100 like that with one decision, and all the people we thought were going to join. I made a video series a while ago where I went through like every single story arc and who would join the Straw Hats, and adding somebody every story arc. What if that actually happens? It'd be crazy. By the way, before we even get into that, let me just tell you really quick, yes, I am going to be using he, him pronouns for Yamato in this video, right? The reasoning for that is I read through Wano again a little while ago, and, you know, when I was first reviewing it, it was kind of back and forth, like, I'm not really sure. Reading it again, I just kind of decided that, like, wait a minute, I'm just gonna refer to Yamato based off of the way that Oda is writing his character in the arc. So Yamato clearly has a preference and clearly prefers people to refer to him as a man. And at the end of the arc is probably the most glaring thing for me. Yamato had a choice to go into the women's bath or the men's bath. Yamato chose to go into the men's bath. All of Kaido's crew refer to Yamato as a man. And, you know, it's the same thing like if in real life, if I met somebody and we were making introductions and they told me how they would like to be referred to as, I'm going to refer to them that way. It seems pretty clear to me, at least, that if Yamato really existed, he would prefer to be referred to as a man. So that's the way I'm doing it, just as an act of common courtesy that I would literally extend to anybody that I ever meet in real life. The only thing with that some people will bring up is that, well, Yamato just wants to be referred to as a man because of Odin. You know, Yamato wants to be like Odin, so therefore it's not the same. And to that, I would also extend to say, hey, if I met somebody and they told me they would like to be referred to as a man, I'm not going to ask why. I'm just going to do that as an act of common courtesy. It's none of my business why you want to be referred to that way. It's just, all right, I will give you that, you know, common courtesy, right? Okay, so with that all being said, what the hell is an Okuchi no Makami? Like, all right, so I'll be honest. Even regarding the yokai and the different Japanese deities that Oda implements in Wano, obviously Oda being Japanese is going to include a lot of references to Japanese folklore in this arc, okay? So you got the Yamato no Orochi, which is a very well-known yokai. You got the Azure Dragon, dragons in general, very well-known mythical creatures in Japan. We also have a few others that pop up, the Onyudo that Onimaru can transform into. Black Maria has a Wan Yudo staff laugh. It's not really a Wanyudo. It's actually a pug smile, but it's a Wanyudo, right? And of course, there's references to like Momonosuke, Momotaro. I said previously, Odin bears a lot of similarities to Goemon as well as Susanoo no Mikoto. These are all characters that are very well known in Japan. I mean, Momotaro is essentially a children's story that like everybody learns about, okay? So those are all very popular and well known. The Okuchi no Makami is probably the most obscure, even in Japan, mythical characters or mythical creatures that Oda could have selected here for Yamato, but it's actually, it really fits him. It really does, okay? So just breaking down the kanji really quick. Okuchi no Makami. Okuchi literally just means big mouth or wide jaws, all right? And then Makami, Ma here would mean true or divine, and then Kami meaning spirit or God. So it's literally large mouth or wide mouth, divine God, large mouth God. All right, Yamato turns into a large white wolf that can spit ice out of its mouth. We'll get to that in a moment, okay? But that's the name of the fruit. All right, so what is this based on? All right, so this is going to take a little bit. There's a few connections here on where this all kind of lines up. There's a lot of moving pieces with this. All right, so there is currently an extinct species, a subspecies of gray wolf, okay, that used to live in Japan. It went extinct at the beginning of the 20th century. It was the Japanese wolf or the Honshu wolf, all right? These wolves were pretty common in Japan, and they were venerated as deities in some respects, and there were shrines and stuff, and they seemed to be rather ubiquitous back in the day. They were gods that were worshipped to help hikers out of woods that got lost or down the mountain. They're also very prominent for fire prevention, so maybe that's why Yamato has the ability to harness like cold and ice as his power, okay? That's the mythical ability that he gets on top of turning into a large wolf, right, is ice powers. So there was a folk hero in Japan that was purportedly the 12th emperor, Yamato Takeru. If those two names mean something to you, Yamato, obviously, because we're talking about Yamato, that is most likely his namesake. That's where Oda got Yamato's name. There was also the name of a battleship, I believe, during World War II that it also might have been taken from. But anyway, that's Yamato's name. And then Takeru, as revealed in an SBS, is actually the name of Yamato's kanabo, which is a little different than Kaido's kanabo. Kaido's has like spikes on it. Yamato's has the more blunt, rounded edges, kind of like this one here that a fan sent me a few years ago, right? So Takeru Yamato, that is the name of the purported 12th emperor. We say purported because this is the part of history where myth kind of blends in, right? In the need to have this unbroken chain of emperors all the way back to the original emperor, who was Emperor Jimmu, very clearly a mythological character because Jimmu was like said to be the grandson of Amaterasu. So that's like the direct connection from gods to men. You know, like you have the goddess Amaterasu has children, they have children. Then there's Emperor Jimmu, who's like part god, part human. And then that begins the line of emperors that continues all the way ostensibly to this day, right? So that's kind of like the origin mythos there. Anyway, there's a story involving Yamato Takeru where he gets lost in a mountain at some point, and there is a white wolf that guides him down. And as thanks for helping him, he decides that all of Japan shall worship this wolf deity. And you saw this wolf popping up at a lot of different temples back in the day. So after the Edo period, after Japan opened up to the world and the Meiji period began, the wolves were very much like overhunted and eventually wiped out. They were extinct, okay? So after that, in the early 20th century, you don't really see a lot of places in Japan worshiping them as much, and they've kind of become a forgotten deity. There are still a few places. There's a shrine called Mitsumine Shrine, and they have still like statues of the wolf deity there. And there's a few other places around like, you know, Shikoku, those kind of areas of Japan where this deity will pop up, especially when you go to like really, really old shrines that have been around for thousands of years. I remember we went to one in Kamakura that was like, it was built in like the year 1100 or something like that. Like it was just wild how old some of these shrines are and how well maintained they are, right? Okay, so a little bit of an obscure deity even in Japan, and a lot of Yamato's techniques are all named after deities or shrines or relevant things in Shinto, things of that nature, okay? So Yamato actually consumed the fruit when he was a little kid. I guess the idea was that, Kaido had acquired this mythical Zoan. It had to be somewhere in Wano. I don't think he got it outside of Wano, because Kaido literally calls this fruit the guardian deity of Wano. Like, it was an extraordinarily important fruit. And I think what Kaido originally planned on doing with this fruit was, finding somebody to eat it, and then essentially now turning the guardian deity of Wano against the people of Wano. Can you imagine how much that would have broken the spirits of everybody? I mean, everybody's spirits they were already holding on by a thread because of Orochi taking over, Sukiyaki's dead, Odin is dead, and then Kaido is lording as a dragon god over everybody as their emperor, right? But if, let's say, for example, King or Queen would have consumed Yamato's Okuchi no Makami devil fruit and become the guardian deity of Wano, but being used for evil against them, that would have absolutely shattered them. So I think that was originally the idea. However, Yamato ended up eating the fruit instead, and Oda even drew Yamato as a little kid, here's what he looked like having the powers after first consuming it, right? And so Kaido got pretty mad about that, and then, the other events occurred, and Yamato eventually ended up getting locked in the cave with the other daimyos. The daimyos all sacrificed their life, including Ushimaru, in order for Yamato to escape. He ends up getting chained up, meets Ace eventually, has a moment with him, and then Ace, leaves, and then eventually Luffy shows up, frees Yamato, and so Yamato has a brief fight with his dad, but it's pretty intense. It's a pretty intense fight, okay? So Yamato's hybrid form is what he seems to use mainly, augmenting the power of Takeru. There's even a technique that Yamato pulls off without even going into the hybrid form, which is something we very rarely see with Zoans. Now, granted, it is a mythical Zoan, but in his human form, able to swing Takeru and endow it with the icy frost powers of the devil fruit, even without in the form. That's pretty sweet. Even somebody we've seen that with Marco. Marco can summon the flames of revival without being in the animal form. So maybe that's something just indicative for mythical Zoans, I would assume, because the other Zoans don't really have added abilities, okay? But the first technique is Namuji Hyoga, and it's just ice breath. It's just Yamato goes into the hybrid form, and it's just and then just shoots ice breath and just freezes everything around. Also, keep in mind, Yamato is extraordinarily powerful, very, very strong, okay? And he wipes the floor with pretty much every beast pirate he comes across, except then he gets to Kaido, and then it's yes, Yamato, my son, you will obey, and you can say all these horrible things about Kaido. He's an awful dad, but he doesn't misgender Yamato, so I guess you gotta go with that. At least Kaido even refers to Yamato how he wants to be referred to as. But other than that, shitty dad, awful dad. But anyway, that fight happens, and Yamato manages to stand up to Kaido pretty well, enough for Luffy to re-energize with eating all the food and then hopping on the back of Momonosuke and then getting back up to Onigashima, and then the fight can resume. I think that's the third round with Luffy. Luffy and Kaido have 4 different rounds. There's the one at the Bakura town where Luffy just gets decimated with the Thunder Bagara, and then the second round on the rooftop where he gets defeated there, and then he comes back again after Yamato fights Kaido and he re-energizes. He comes back up, fights Kaido again for round 3. Then a member of the Cypher Pool, Zero, shows up and interrupts the fight. Kaido beats him again, and then the 4th round is when Luffy finally unlocks Gear 5th and he pops up as Sun God Nika, and then the fight, finally finishes. Luffy finally wins. So, I don't know. Luffy's 1-3, and then Kaido's 3-1 at this point. I feel like Kaido overall has more victories, but whatever. I guess all that matters is the one final one where Luffy brings down the giant fish, right? So Yamato puts up a really good fight, but it really is apparent, especially since we didn't even get to see all of Kaido's strongest moves until he fought against Gear 5th Luffy, going into the giant magma dragon form. We didn't even see that with Yamato, and if Kaido were to use that against him, magma and ice, we just have a repeat of Akainu and Aokiji at that point. And I feel like Kaido would have ultimately won. There is a really cool, probably my favorite technique that Yamato does, called Kage Miyama, which is Mirror Mountain. And it's this awesome scene where Kaido takes out his Kanabo and uses a Thunder Bagara against Yamato, hits him, just boom! in the hybrid form, and then you just see like cracks begin to appear around Yamato's body, and then it all shatters apart at once. And it's like, oh, it was like ice armor. That's like some Toshiro Hitsugaya shit. Awesome, right? And so unfortunately, later on, like, it's a really cool scene, and then I remember in like the next chapter, Yamato starts coughing up blood, like, I wasn't able to completely mitigate the damage there, but still, really good resistance there. Then there's Himorogiri, icy cuts, where Yamato just kind of brings down, it's cuts and blades in a lot of these translations, but it is a blunt kanabo, it's a blunt takeru. Attacks Kaido with like an overhead swing there, and then there's Maharoba, horse phantom blade. That's the one where Yamato is fighting the Kanzenbo in his human form, and endows the abilities of ice and frost into the Kanabo and swings at the Kanzenbo. Kanzenbo, a lot of really similar sounding names here. Wait a minute, a second. Yamato uses his Kanabo to fight against Kanjuro's Kanzenbo. Say that 3 times fast. Holy shit. Okay, tongue twisters today. All right, so smacking the Kanzenbo around, which is an entity that's made out of pure fire and hate. It's like 40% hate, 60% fire, something like that, right? And then eventually that thing ends up in the area with Orochi, and that kind of ties into the way he's killed when Denjiro shows up and decapitates Orochi and everything like that there. So there was the 4 main techniques that Yamato does, but essentially having, there's only other devil fruits that have cold and ice powers were Aokiji's Logia, the Hiya no Mi that embodies everything chilly, and then we have Monet's Yuki no Mi, which is like the downgraded form of that Logia, still able to do some really cool techniques, although I would say Monet wasn't as proficient with it as like other devil fruit users are. And then we have Yamato as the mythical zone that can harness that. So in terms of overall having like snow, cold, ice, frost powers, there's really only 3 characters in the story that exhibit those. I'm probably forgetting about somebody else. I mean, I don't know, Rock and Scotch, the Yeti Cool brothers, I guess. Like, I don't know. And Monet is dead, so the Yuki no Mi got resurrected somewhere. You know, maybe Nami will get it. Probably somebody will eat that at some point, at least I would assume. Overall, if Yamato fought Aokiji would win. You know, yeah, no, Aokiji would win. Aokiji beat Garp. Aokiji stocks are kind of high right now, okay? So we see Yamato journeying over Wano to return the sword to Yasuie's shrine, but also to emulate the journey that Odin took before he went out to sea. That's what Odin did, so Yamato, wanting to follow in Odin's footsteps, did the exact same thing. Beat up Who's Who and his little operation along the way, and recruited Ulti and Page One as his loyal followers now. So not sure if some of the other members of the Tobiropo, like, I don't know, Sasaki might join Yamato at some point. Probably not. We don't know what happened to Sasaki or Black Maria. Black Maria got her like back broken by Robin, like hardcore, so I don't know if she's going to be around anymore. I'm assuming they're in the prison. I guess Who's Who might have escaped. Who's Who's obviously not going to join up with Yamato. But yeah, we finished off that cover series. It's done now. So whatever happens at this point onward, I'm assuming Yamato and Momonosuke are going to be true to their words and go and, you know, follow Luffy and help him out wherever he needs it, right? But I don't know if they're going to be showing up. Like, I feel like we're going to have a big moment at the end of the story when we have the final battle and a bunch of people are going to show up, and Yamato, Momonosuke, the Minks, you know, everybody's the Galley La Foreman, like all these people from One Piece that we've learned about and, the Straw Hats have encountered and made alliances with over the years are eventually going to come to that final battle. I don't know if Yamato will show up before then, but maybe he will. It's possible. Let me know. Also, when Yamato goes into the form, we also get to see the ribbon. It's like made of frost, you know? So Yamato being an awakened zone, I can see it. Son of an emperor, after all, and stuff like that. Ancient giant as well. Who is Yamato's mom? That's a thing that it is never touched upon in all of Wano. Some people bring up Black Maria. That can't possibly be the case because Yamato is 28, and I think Black Maria is, like, younger than Yamato, actually. So just the timelines just don't line up there. Black Maria is 29. So yeah, Black Maria could not be the mother of Yamato. But it was somebody. It was somebody at some point. We don't know whom. But they're out there somewhere. So maybe we'll see the mother of Yamato at some point and what happened to her. Okay? Because I would argue, like, in the case with Big Mom, Big Mom's, like, husbands, we've learned that they were basically, like, drones to her. Like, she just did not give a shit, right? So I don't think we're going to learn about, like, Katakuri's dad or anything like that. But when it comes to, like, Kaido only having one child, I just feel like that's kind of more important to find out, like, who's the mom. So let me know down below. But yeah, pretty cool devil fruit, if I must say so myself. And look forward to seeing Yamato again in the story. All right, awesome. Okay, we got 2 left. Technically, we got 6, but I'm throwing all of the Gorosei's mythical zones in the next video together, or yokais, or whatever the hell they are. So, tomorrow, December 30th, all the Gorosei, and then December 31st to end out the year, Killingham's Kieran zone. That'll be it. We'll be done. I'll bring celebrations. Bring wine. Oh, man, we still got to do the Mihawk wine video. New Year's Day, I'll do the Mihawk wine video. First video of 2026, January 1st, will be the Mihawk wine video. That'll work out great anyway, because New Year's, people drink. Okay. Signing out, everybody.